Benjamin Hale was the nightmare of Aroma Coffee Kitchen. When his shiny black car pulled up outside, the staff would peek through the window, and their stomachs would drop. When he walked through the door, people stopped talking. When he sat down at his favorite table, everyone held their breath. No one dared to stand up to him. No one ever talked back. No one even looked him in the eye for too long, until one day a new waitress did something that left the whole cafe absolutely stunned. Hello friends, welcome to our story. Before we start, please like this video and subscribe. Also, tell us in the comments where are you watching from? Florida, United Kingdom, maybe South Africa or Jamaica? We want to know. Once upon a time, in a big city with tall buildings that touched the clouds and streets that were always busy with cars and people, there was a small cafe called Aroma Coffee Kitchen. It sat on the corner of Maple Street, right between a flower shop and a bookstore. The cafe wasn't fancy. The tables were a bit old. The chairs didn't all match. The paint on the walls was starting to fade. But it smelled wonderful, like fresh coffee, warm bread, and cinnamon rolls baking in the oven. It was the kind of place that felt like home. The cafe was owned by a man named Harlan Brooks. Harlan was a man with gray hair and tired eyes that still knew how to smile. He had owned the cafe for years, and he loved it with all his heart. But lately, things had been very hard. Money was tight. Bills kept piling up on his desk. The rent kept going up. Fewer customers were coming in, and Harlan worried every single night about how he was going to keep his cafe open. But Harlan wasn't alone. He had his workers, people who had become like family to him. There was Beatrice, a grandmother with silver hair and the warmest hugs. She had worked at the cafe for years and baked the best muffins anyone had ever tasted. There was Lydia, a young woman with curly brown hair who dreamed of becoming a teacher one day. She was shy and nervous, but she worked hard and never complained. And there was Nolan, a tall, skinny young man with glasses that were always sliding down his nose. He was studying at the community college and worked at the cafe to pay for his books. These three people were more than just employees to Harlan. They were his friends. They helped each other. They laughed together. They shared their problems and their dreams. But there was one person who made their lives miserable. His name was Everett Hale. Everett Hale was the richest man in the neighborhood, maybe the richest man in the whole city. He owned companies, buildings, and fancy cars. He wore suits that cost thousands of dollars. His watch probably cost more than Harlan made in a whole year. He had more money than he could ever spend in his lifetime. But money hadn't made Everett happy. It had made him mean. Everett was a bully. Not the kind of bully who pushes you on the playground. No, he was the kind of bully who used his money and power to make people feel small and scared. He yelled at people in public. He called them stupid. He threatened to take them to court and sue them for everything they had. He would make workers cry, then smile while he watched them wipe their tears. And his favorite place to be mean, Aroma Coffee Kitchen. Every Tuesday morning, Everett would walk into the cafe like a dark storm cloud. He would sit at table 3 by the window. He would order black coffee and a plain bagel. And he would find something, anything to complain about. The coffee was too hot or too cold, or not strong enough or too strong. The bagel was too toasted, or not toasted enough, or cut wrong. The service was too slow, or the waiters were too pushy. It didn't matter what anyone did. Everett always found fault, and when he did, he would threaten to sue. He would say he'd call his lawyers. He would promise to destroy the cafe and everyone who worked there. Harlan and his workers had learned to just be quiet and take it. What else could they do? Everett had money for lawyers. They didn't. Everett could afford to go to court. They couldn't. One lawsuit could destroy everything Harlan had worked for. So, they walked on eggshells every Tuesday. They spoke in whispers. They tried to be perfect. They hoped Everett would just drink his coffee and leave without causing too much trouble. But hope doesn't always work out the way we want it to. And today, this particular Tuesday morning, was about to become the day that changed everything, because Harlan had a daughter named Delaney. Delaney Brooks was young. She had dark hair that she wore in a simple ponytail, bright brown eyes, and a smile that made everyone feel calm. She had just finished college and was trying to figure out what to do with her life. She had studied business, but she wasn't sure what kind of job she wanted yet. "Why don't you come work at the café for a while?" Harlan had suggested last week, "just until you figure things out. I could use the extra help, and it would be nice to spend more time together." Delaney had agreed. She'd worked at the café during summer breaks when she was younger, so she knew how to make coffee and serve customers. Plus, she missed seeing her dad every day. Today was her first day back. Delaney had woken up early feeling excited. She put on black pants, a white shirt, and the café's green apron with Aroma Coffee Kitchen written on it in yellow letters. She looked at herself in the mirror and smiled. "First day," she said to her reflection. "Let's make it a good one." She had no idea what was waiting for her. When Delaney walked into the café that morning, her father was already there preparing for the day. "Good morning, Dad," she said cheerfully, giving him a big hug. Harlan hugged her back, but Delaney noticed he seemed tense. His shoulders were tight. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Good morning, sweetie. Ready for your first day?" "Absolutely. Just tell me what to do." "Well," Harlan said slowly, "there's something I need to warn you about first." Before he could say more, Beatrice came out from the kitchen carrying a tray of fresh muffins. Her face lit up when she saw Delaney. "Delaney! Oh, it's so good to have you here." She set down the tray and gave Delaney a warm hug. "Your father has told us so much about you finishing college. We're so proud." "Thank you, Beatrice," Delaney said, smiling. Lydia and Nolan came over too, and everyone made Delaney feel welcome, but she noticed something strange. Everyone seemed nervous. They kept glancing at the clock. They kept looking at the door. "Is everything okay?" Delaney asked. The cafe fell quiet. Harlan took a deep breath. "Delaney, there's someone who comes here every Tuesday, a customer named Everett Hale. He's difficult." "Difficult how?" Lydia spoke up, her voice soft. "He's really mean, Delaney. He yells. He threatens to sue us. He makes people cry. He made me cry just last week," Beatrice added quietly. "He said my muffins tasted like cardboard and threatened to report us to the health department. There was nothing wrong with my muffins." Nolan pushed his glasses up. "He's the worst person I've ever met, and he has so much money that we can't do anything about it. We just have to take it." Delaney's eyes narrowed. "Take it? You mean you just let him be mean to you?" Harlan put a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Delaney, I know how you are. I know you don't like bullies, but this is different. Everett Hale isn't just some guy being rude. He's powerful. He's dangerous. One wrong word, and he could sue us and take everything. The café, our savings, everything." "So when he comes in," Harlan paused, looking his daughter in the eyes. "When he comes in, just smile, be polite, and don't under any circumstances talk back to him. Please." Delaney looked at her father's worried face. She looked at Beatrice's sad eyes. She looked at Lydia and Nolan, who both looked scared. Something in her chest felt hot and angry. She didn't like bullies. She had never liked bullies, and she especially didn't like bullies who picked on good people like her father and his friends. But she loved her father, and she didn't want to cause him trouble on her very first day. "Okay, Dad," she said. "I understand." Harlan looked relieved. "Thank you, sweetheart. He'll be here soon. Just stay in the background and let me or Beatrice handle him." Delaney nodded, but deep down she made a promise to herself. If this Everett Hale was as bad as everyone said, and if he tried to hurt anyone she cared about, well, she wasn't going to just stand there and let it happen. The clock on the wall ticked, and in the distance, a shiny black car was driving down Maple Street, heading straight for Aroma Coffee Kitchen. The bell above the door jingled. Everyone froze. Delaney was standing behind the counter, wiping down the coffee machine. She looked up and saw him walk in. Everett Hale. He moved like he owned the world. His shoes clicked loudly on the floor. Click, 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 like a countdown timer. He wore a dark gray suit that looked like it had never had a single wrinkle. His black hair was slicked back perfectly. His face looked like it was carved from stone, hard, cold, and angry. But what struck Delaney most were his eyes. They were dark and empty, like looking into a deep hole. There was no kindness there, no warmth, just coldness. He didn't say good morning. He didn't smile. He didn't even look at anyone directly. "Table 3, he announced in a voice that expected to be obeyed immediately. Delaney watched as her father almost jumped. "Yes, Mr. Hale. Right away, sir." Everett walked to his table by the window and sat down. He pulled out his phone but didn't look at it. Instead, his eyes scanned the café, looking at everything, judging everything. Harlan hurried over with a menu, even though Everett never looked at the menu. "Good morning, Mr. Hale," Harlan said with a smile that looked painful. "How are you today?" Everett didn't answer. He didn't even look up. "Can I get you your usual, sir?" Harlan asked. "Obviously," Everett said flatly. "Black coffee, hot, not warm. Actually, hot. And a plain bagel toasted for exactly minutes. I assume you remember how to tell time." Delaney's hand stopped moving. Did he just insult her father? Harlan's smile tightened, but he kept his voice pleasant. "Of course, sir. Coming right up." As Harlan walked back to the counter, Delaney could see his hands shaking slightly. Her father, her strong, kind father who had raised her by himself after her mother died, who had worked 2 jobs to put her through college, who had never said a mean word to anyone, was shaking because of this man. The hot feeling in Delaney's chest grew hotter. "I'll make the coffee," Beatrice whispered, already moving toward the coffee machine. "I'll do the bagel," Lydia said quietly, dropping a bagel into the toaster and setting the timer. Delaney watched them move around like scared mice, trying to be quiet, trying to be invisible. Nolan was cleaning tables on the other side of the café, but she noticed he was purposely staying as far away from Everett as possible. "Dad," Delaney whispered, "why do you let him treat you like that?" Harlan looked at his daughter with tired eyes. "Because I have to, sweetie. Because if I don't, we lose everything." "But please, Delaney, not today. Just stay here behind the counter. Let us handle it." The coffee finished brewing. Beatrice poured it into their nicest cup with hands that trembled just a little. The bagel popped up from the toaster. Lydia put it on a plate and checked it carefully, perfectly toasted, exactly minutes. "I'll take it to him," Beatrice said, arranging everything on a tray. Delaney watched as Beatrice walked slowly across the café, carrying the tray like it held something precious and dangerous at the same time. She reached table 3 and set the cup and plate down gently in front of Everett. "Your coffee and bagel, Mr. Hale." Beatrice said softly. Everett didn't look at her. He picked up the coffee cup and took a small sip. Everyone in the cafe seemed to hold their breath. Everett set the cup down, his face twisted into a scowl. "This coffee is lukewarm," he said loudly. Beatrice blinked. I just made it fresh, sir. It should be. Are you arguing with me?" Everett's voice got louder. "Are you telling me I don't know the difference between hot and lukewarm?" "No, sir. This is unacceptable." Everett stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Everyone in the cafe turned to look. "I come here every week, every single week, and every single week you people find new ways to disappoint me." Beatrice's eyes were getting watery. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'll make you a fresh cup right away. You'll make me a fresh cup." Everett's voice dripped with sarcasm. "How generous of you to fix your own mistake. Do you have any idea who I am? Do you know how much money I spend in this pathetic little cafe?" "Mr. Hale," Harlan said, rushing over. "Please let me you." Everett turned on Harlan. "This is your fault. You clearly don't train your staff properly. You hire incompetent people who can't perform the simplest tasks. My young nephew could make better coffee than this." Delaney's fingernails dug into her palms. She was gripping the counter so hard her knuckles were turning white. "I should shut this place down," Everett continued, his voice getting louder and meaner. "I should call the health department. I should sue you for serving substandard products. I should." "The coffee is fine," Delaney heard herself say. The entire cafe went silent. Everyone turned to look at her. Harlan, Beatrice, Lydia, Nolan, the customers, and Everett Hale himself. Delaney hadn't meant to speak. The words had just come out. But now that she'd started, she couldn't stop. She stepped out from behind the counter. "Delaney," her father said in a warning voice. "Don't. The coffee is fine," Delaney repeated, walking toward table 3. Her heart was pounding, but her voice was steady. "Beatrice made it fresh. I watched her. It's hot. You're just looking for something to complain about." A strange expression crossed Everett's face, surprise mixed with anger. Clearly, no one had spoken to him like this in a very long time. "You don't think?" He let out a short, harsh laugh. "You don't think I should talk to people this way? Do you have any idea who you're speaking to?" "Yes," Delaney said calmly. "You're a customer." "A rude customer?" Gasps came from around the cafe. Harlan looked like he might faint. "Delaney, please." Everett's face was turning red. "Rude. Rude. I am Everett Hale. I own half the buildings on this street. I have more money than you'll see in lifetimes. I could buy this cafe and fire all of you before lunch." "Money doesn't give you the right to be mean," Delaney said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was strong. "Money doesn't make you better than other people. And having a lot of money definitely doesn't give you permission to make a kind grandmother cry just because you're having a bad day." Beatrice was staring at Delaney with wide eyes, tears still on her cheeks. Everett's jaw clenched. His hands were shaking, not with fear like everyone else's, but with rage. "You have no idea what you've just done. I will destroy this cafe. I will sue your father for everything he has. When I'm done with you people, you'll be living on the street." "Then go ahead," Delaney said. She was scared. Her heart was beating so fast. She thought everyone could hear it. But she didn't back down. "Sue us. Take us to court. But everyone here, all these customers, they heard what just happened. They heard you yelling at innocent people for no reason. They saw you trying to bully us. So, if you want to sue us, We'll tell the judge exactly what kind of person you are." Everett's mouth opened, then closed. He looked around the café. Every single customer was watching him. Some were nodding at Delaney's words. Others were frowning at him with disapproval. For maybe the first time in years, Everett Hale didn't have complete control of the situation. His face went from red to almost purple. "This isn't over," he said in a low, dangerous voice. "Not even close. You just made the biggest mistake of your life." He grabbed his phone and his briefcase and stormed toward the door. The bell jingled violently as he yanked the door open and slammed it behind him. For a moment, nobody moved. Then slowly, one customer started clapping. Then another. Then the whole cafe erupted in applause. "That was amazing!" Someone shouted. About time someone stood up to him. Another person called out, but Delaney wasn't smiling. She turned to look at her father. Harlan's face was pale. His hands were trembling. He looked at his daughter with a mixture of pride and absolute terror. "Delaney," he whispered, "what have you done?" The applause in the cafe slowly faded away. The customers went back to their coffee and conversations, still buzzing with excitement about what they just witnessed. But behind the counter, the atmosphere was completely different. Harlan led Delaney into the small office at the back of the cafe. Beatrice, Lydia, and Nolan followed. Once the door was closed, Harlan sat down heavily in his old desk chair and put his head in his hands. "Dad, I'm sorry," Delaney started to say. "I know you told me not to say anything, but you don't understand," Harlan said, his voice muffled by his hands. "You don't understand what you've done." "She stood up for us," Beatrice said quietly. "No one has ever done that before, and now we'll pay the price," Harlan said, looking up. His eyes were red. "Everett Hale doesn't make empty threats. When he says he'll destroy us, he means it. He has the money and the lawyers to do it." Delaney sat down on a wooden stool. The adrenaline that had carried her through the confrontation was starting to fade, and now reality was sinking in. "What? What do you think he'll do?" Nolan pushed his glasses up nervously. Last year, he got angry at the dry cleaners down the street. He sued them for damaging one of his shirts, which wasn't even damaged. The case dragged on for months. They had to hire a lawyer they couldn't afford. Eventually, they just closed down and moved away, Lydia added. "And remember the restaurant on 5th Street? The owner's son talked back to Everett once. Just once. Everett used his connections to get the health department to inspect them over and over again. Every week, there was a new inspection, a new fine for tiny things. They went out of business." Delaney felt her stomach drop. But that's not fair. That's not legal. You can't just—" "He can," Harlan said tiredly. "When you have enough money, you can do a lot of things that shouldn't be possible. You can hire expensive lawyers who know how to work the system. You can drag cases out until the other person runs out of money to fight back. You can use your connections to make life difficult in ways that seem legal on paper." The small office fell silent except for the distant sound of the coffee machine in the cafe. "I'm sorry, Dad," Delaney whispered. "I really am. I couldn't stand watching him treat you all like that. You're good people. You don't deserve it." Harlan looked at his daughter, and despite his fear, his eyes softened. "I know, sweetheart. You were brave, and part of me is proud of you for standing up to him. But the other part of me," he gestured around the office at the stacks of bills on his desk, at the calculator with numbers that didn't add up to enough. "The other part of me is terrified about what comes next." Beatrice put a gentle hand on Harlan's shoulder. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." "That's right," Nolan said, trying to sound braver than he looked. "We're a team." Lydia nodded. "Delaney did what all of us wanted to do. We can't be mad at her for that." Harlan managed a small smile. "I'm not mad, just scared." A knock on the office door made everyone jump. It was Mrs. Ramirez, one of the regular customers. "Harlan, sorry to interrupt, but there's a man here asking for you." Harlan's face went pale. Is it Everett Hale?" No, it's someone else. He says his name is Preston Hayes. He says he works for Mr. Hale." Everyone exchanged worried glances. Harlan stood up slowly. "I'll talk to him. The rest of you stay here." "Dad, I should come with you," Delaney said. "This is my fault." "No, stay here, please." Harlan walked out into the café. Delaney waited about seconds before quietly following him. She stood just inside the doorway, where she could see and hear but stay out of sight. A man in a neat brown suit stood by the counter. He was younger than Everett, with short black hair and kind eyes that looked worried. He held a briefcase in one hand. "Mr. Brooks?" the man asked. "Yes." "You said you work for Everett Hale." "I'm Preston Hayes, Mr. Hale's personal assistant. I've worked for him for years." Preston looked around the café nervously, then lowered his voice. "Can we talk somewhere private?" Harlan led him to a table in the corner, away from other customers. Delaney crept a little closer, hiding behind a tall plant near the doorway. Preston set his briefcase on the table, but didn't open it. "Mr. Brooks, I'll be direct. Mr. Hale is furious about what happened this morning. I've worked for him for a long time, and I've never seen him this angry." Harlan swallowed hard. "I understand the waitress who spoke to him. That's my daughter. It was her first day. She didn't know. She was brave." Preston interrupted. Then he looked around to make sure no one was listening and continued even more quietly. "Mr. Brooks, I'm not supposed to be here. If Mr. Hale found out I was talking to you, I'd lose my job. But I felt like I needed to warn you." "Warn me?" Preston leaned forward. "Mr. Hale is planning to sue you. He's already called 3 different lawyers. He's talking about suing for emotional distress, hostile work environment, public humiliation. He's making up reasons that won't hold up in court. But that's not the point." "Then, what is the point?" "The point is to drown you in legal fees. To drag the case out so long that you run out of money to fight, to make your life so difficult that you just give up and close the café." Preston's voice was sad. "I've seen him do it before to other people who couldn't afford to fight back." Harlan closed his eyes. "Why are you telling me this if you work for him?" "Because I'm tired of watching him hurt people." Preston said, "I took this job because the pay was good, and I needed to support my family. But over the years, I've watched Mr. Hale destroy lives for no reason except that he enjoys it. And he paused. "I can't keep being part of it without at least trying to help the people he targets." Delaney felt a small spark of hope. Maybe this Preston person could help them. "Is there anything I can do?" Harlan asked desperately. "Any way to stop this?" Preston thought for a moment. "Apologize? Have your daughter apologize? Maybe if Mr. Hale feels like he won, like he got his revenge through humiliation, he'll let it go." Harlan looked down at his hands. "You want my daughter to apologize to a man who was being cruel? To say she was wrong when she wasn't? I know how it sounds, but pride won't save your café, Mr. Brooks. Sometimes survival means swallowing your pride." Behind the plant, Delaney felt torn. Part of her knew Preston was right. An apology might make this all go away. But the other part of her remembered Beatrice's tears, remembered her father's shaking hands, remembered years of people being bullied and too afraid to fight back. Before Harlan could respond, the café door burst open. Two men in suits walked in carrying clipboards and cameras. One of them announced loudly, "Health Department inspection." "Hi." Everyone remained calm. Harlan stood up quickly. "Health inspection, but we just had one. We passed everything." "Routine follow-up," one of the men said, though his tone suggested it wasn't routine at all. "We've received a complaint about potential violations." Preston looked at Harlan with sad eyes. "It's already started," he whispered. The health inspectors began walking around the café, looking at everything with intense scrutiny. They checked the temperature of the refrigerator. They examined the coffee machine. They inspected the bathrooms. They photographed everything. One inspector ran his finger along a windowsill and frowned at the microscopic amount of dust he found there. "Unsatisfactory cleanliness," he muttered, writing something on his clipboard. "That's ridiculous." Lydia said, "We clean that every day." "Ma'am, please don't interfere with the inspection." They went into the kitchen. Delaney could hear them opening cabinets, checking dates on food packages, examining every corner. The customers in the café were starting to look uncomfortable. Some of them got up and left, not wanting to be part of whatever was happening. After minutes, the inspectors came back out. One of them handed Harlan a piece of paper. "You have violations," he said. Harlan looked at the paper in shock. "But these are tiny things. A smudge on a window, a can of tomatoes that expires soon instead of later. These aren't real violations. They're all documented in the health code. Sir, you have hours to fix everything and schedule a re-inspection. There's a fee for the re-inspection." "How much?" $500. Harlan looked like he'd been punched. $500 just to have you come back and check things you're making up. The inspector's face remained blank. "Have a good day, sir." They left. The café was silent. Preston stood up slowly. "I'm sorry. This is just the beginning. Tomorrow, it might be the fire marshal. Next week, the building inspector. He'll keep sending people until you can't afford the fees anymore." Harlan sank into a chair. His face had lost all its color. Delaney couldn't stay hidden anymore. She walked out from behind the plant and straight to her father's side. "Dad, not now, Delaney." "But Dad, we have to fight this. This isn't fair. This life isn't fair." Harlan's voice cracked. For the first time in Delaney's life, she heard her father sound truly defeated. Life isn't fair, and sometimes good people lose, and there's nothing we can do about it. Tears started running down Harlan's cheeks. He was crying. Her strong, brave father was crying. Delaney knelt down beside him and took his hands. "Then I'll apologize. I'll go to Everett Hale right now and apologize. I'll beg him to stop if that's what it takes." Harlan shook his head. "It's too late for that now. You embarrassed him in public. He won't accept an apology. He wants revenge." Preston picked up his briefcase. "I should go before anyone sees me here. I'm truly sorry I couldn't do more." He paused at the door. "For what it's worth, your daughter was right about everything she said. Everett Hale is a bully. He does use his money to hurt people, and someone should stand up to him." He looked at Delaney. "I just wish the cost wasn't so high for the people who do." After Preston left, the cafe staff gathered around Harlan. Beatrice was crying too. Lydia and Nolan looked scared and helpless. "What are we going to do?" Nolan asked quietly. Harlan looked at the violation notice in his hands. "We fix what they say is wrong. We pay the fee. We survive another day. And we just hope that Everett gets bored and moves on to torturing someone else." But in his voice, Delaney could hear that he didn't really believe that would happen. Outside the cafe window, dark clouds were gathering in the sky. The storm had only just begun. The next few days were the hardest Delaney had ever experienced. Harlan and his staff worked from morning until late at night, fixing every single thing the health inspectors had written down. They scrubbed walls that were already clean. They organized shelves that were already organized. They threw away food that was still perfectly good just because it would expire soon instead of later. Delaney worked alongside them, feeling guilty with every passing hour. This was all her fault. If she had just kept quiet like her father asked, none of this would be happening. On a morning, a fire marshal showed up. He found violations. Things like a fire extinguisher that was too far from where it should be, or an exit sign that wasn't bright enough, even though everyone could see it clearly. Another $500 fee. On another day, a building inspector came. He said the back door didn't meet current code standards, even though it was the same door that had been there for years. Another $800 to replace it. On another day, Everett Hale's lawyer sent a letter. It was thick and official-looking with fancy paper and a law firm's name printed at the top in gold letters. Harlan opened it with shaking hands. Delaney stood beside him, reading over his shoulder. The letter said Everett was suing the café for $50,000. He claimed the café had caused him emotional distress and damaged his reputation. When Harlan finished reading, he set the letter down on his desk very carefully, as if it might explode. $50,000? He whispered. We don't have $50,000. We don't even have $5,000. Delaney felt like she couldn't breathe. Dad, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I should have just. Harlan looked at his daughter. You were right to stand up to him. You were brave, but now he gestured at the letter. Now I don't know what to do. Beatrice came into the office. One look at their faces told her something was very wrong. What happened? Harlan handed her the letter. Beatrice read it, and her face went pale. This is impossible. We can't pay this. I know, Harlan said quietly. So, what do we do? Harlan put his head in his hands. I don't know. Maybe we have to close the cafe. Maybe we should just give up before he takes everything. No, Delaney said loudly. Dad, we can't let him win like this. He's a bully. He's doing all of this just because I hurt his feelings. Sometimes bullies win, Delaney, especially when they have money and power, and we have nothing. Lydia appeared in the doorway, looking worried. Harlan, there's a man here from the supply company. He says they can't deliver our coffee beans anymore. Harlan looked up. What? Why not? He says. He says someone called them and threatened them, told them if they kept doing business with us, they'd lose their other contracts in the city. Harlan closed his eyes. Everett. Nolan came running in next, his phone in his hand. Harlan, I just got a call from our landlord. He says, our rent is going up. Starting next month. It's double what we're paying now. Double? Harlan stood up so fast his chair fell over. He can't do that. We have a lease. He says there's a clause that lets him raise rent if there are business concerns about the property. He mentioned the health violations, the inspections. Nolan trailed off. Everyone was quiet. Delaney felt tears burning in her eyes. Everett wasn't just attacking them with one lawsuit. He was attacking them from every direction at once. Suppliers, landlords, inspectors, lawsuits. He was using his money and connections to squeeze them from all sides. This is what he does, Beatrice said softly. This is how he destroys people slowly, piece by piece, until there's nothing left. Harlan picked up his chair and sat back down. He looked older than Delaney had ever seen him, tired, defeated. "Maybe it's time to give up," he said quietly. "Maybe we close the cafe before we lose any more money, before the bank takes my house, before we end up with nothing at all." "No." Delaney grabbed her father's hands. "Dad, please, we can't give up now. We've come so far. We haven't come anywhere except closer to being destroyed." Harlan pulled his hands away and stood up. "I'm done, Delaney. I'm tired. I'm beaten. Everett Hale wins. That's just how it is." The door opened and Beatrice came in, shaking rain from her umbrella. She took one look at their faces and knew something terrible had happened. "What's going on?" "Harlan is closing the cafe," Delaney said, tears in her eyes. Beatrice's face fell. "Harlan, no. I have to, Beatrice. I can't keep fighting. I don't have any fight left." Lydia and Nolan arrived next, and Harlan had to tell them the news too. Lydia started crying. Nolan just stood there looking shocked, pushing his glasses up over and over like he always did when he was nervous. "What about us?" Nolan asked quietly. "Where will we work?" "I'll give you all good references," Harlan said. "I'll help you find new jobs." "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I failed you all." "You didn't fail us," Beatrice said, wiping her eyes. "Everett Hale did this, not you. It doesn't matter who did it. It's done." Harlan walked to the door and flipped the sign from closed to open one last time. "Let's get through today. Tomorrow I'll start the paperwork to close everything down." The morning was quiet and sad. Only a few customers came in, and the staff moved around like ghosts, barely talking. Delaney felt like her heart was breaking. This was all her fault. If she had just kept her mouth shut, none of this would be happening. Her father would still have his cafe. Beatrice, Lydia, and Nolan would still have their jobs. Everything would be fine. The bell above the door jingled. Everyone looked up, and there, standing in the doorway like he owned the place, was Everett Hale. He was smiling, actually smiling. It was a cold, cruel smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Good morning," Everett said, walking to his usual table, table 3, by the window. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Everett sat down and looked around the cafe. "It's quite empty in here today. Business must be slow." His voice dripped with fake sympathy. "How unfortunate." Harlan walked over slowly. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides, but his voice was controlled. "What do you want, Mr. Hale?" "What I always want. Coffee." "What?" "And a bagel toasted." "We both know you're not here for coffee," Harlan interrupted. "You came to gloat, to see us suffering. Well, congratulations. You win. We're closing down. Are you happy now?" Everett's smile grew wider. "Closing down? My, that is unfortunate. All because you couldn't train your staff to show proper respect." Delaney stepped forward. She couldn't help herself. "Respect? You don't know the meaning of that word. You've never respected anyone in your entire life. Delaney, don't." Harlan started, but she ignored him. "You're a bully," Delaney continued, her voice shaking with emotion. "You use your money to hurt people. You destroy lives because it makes you feel powerful. But you know what? Deep down, you're just a sad, lonely, angry man who has nothing real in his life. No friends, no one who actually cares about you. Just money. And money can't buy happiness, Mr. Hale. It can't buy peace. It can't buy a good night's sleep or a clear conscience." The cafe was completely silent. Everett's smile disappeared. His face went red, then almost purple. He stood up so fast, his chair fell over backward with a loud crash. "How dare you!" he shouted. "You little," but didn't finish his sentence. Suddenly, Everett gasped. His hand went to his chest. His eyes went wide with shock and pain. "Mr. Hale," Harlan said, the anger leaving his voice. "Are you okay?" Everett tried to speak but couldn't. He gasped again, his face twisting in agony. His other hand grabbed the edge of the table, but his legs were wobbling. "Oh my God," Lydia whispered. "I think he's having a heart attack." Everett collapsed. He fell hard onto the café floor, his body hitting the ground with a terrible thud. He lay there gasping, his hands still clutching his chest. For a moment, everyone just stood frozen in shock. Then Beatrice screamed, "Someone call 911." Nolan grabbed his phone and ran to the corner, dialing frantically. Harlan started toward Everett, but he didn't know what to do. "Mr. Hale, can you hear me?" Everett's lips were turning blue. His eyes were rolling back. He was dying right there on the café floor. And everyone just stood there, scared and helpless. Everyone except Delaney. Something clicked in Delaney's mind. She remembered the CPR class she'd taken in college. It had been required for her business degree, basic first aid, and emergency response. She dropped to her knees beside Everett. "Dad, help me turn him on his back," she said urgently. "Delaney, what are you? Just help me." Together, they rolled Everett onto his back. Delaney tilted his head back to open his airway, checked for breathing. He wasn't, and then placed her hands on his chest. "What are you doing?" Lydia asked, her voice high with panic. "CPR," Delaney said. Then she started pressing down on Everett's chest. Art fast, counting in her head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She had practiced this on a dummy in class, but doing it on a real person, on a person who was actually dying, was completely different. His chest felt different. The responsibility felt crushing. 15, 16, 17. "The ambulance is coming," Nolan shouted from across the café. They said minutes. Minutes. That was too long. If Delaney stopped doing CPR, Everett would die before they arrived. 28, 29, 30. Delaney tilted Everett's head back again, pinched his nose, and gave him 2 rescue breaths. Then back to chest compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Her arms were already getting tired. Sweat dripped down her face, but she kept going. "You can do it, Delaney," Beatrice said softly, kneeling beside her. "You're doing great." 15, 16, 17. Delaney looked down at Everett's face, the man who had tried to destroy her father, the man who had made Beatrice cry, the man who had threatened to take everything from them. She could stop. She could just stop pressing and let him die. No one would blame her. He was a terrible person. The world might even be better without him. But even as the thought crossed her mind, Delaney knew she could never do that because she wasn't like him. She wasn't cruel, she wasn't heartless, and she wasn't going to let someone die, even if that someone was her enemy. 28, 29, 30. 2 more breaths. 1, 2, 3. "Come on," Delaney whispered. "Come on, Mr. Hale. Breathe. Please breathe." 15, 16, 17. The door burst open and paramedics rushed in with equipment and a stretcher. "We've got it from here," one of them said, gently moving Delaney aside. Delaney collapsed backward, her arms shaking from exhaustion. Lydia helped her to a chair while the paramedics worked on Everett. They used a defibrillator, those paddles that give an electric shock to the heart. Everett's whole body jerked. Nothing. They tried again. This time, Everett gasped. His eyes fluttered open. He was breathing. "We've got a pulse," one paramedic said. "Let's get him to the hospital now." They loaded Everett onto the stretcher and rushed him out to the ambulance. The sirens wailed as they drove away, getting quieter and quieter until they disappeared completely. The café was silent again. Delaney sat in her chair, staring at her hands. They were still shaking. Harlan knelt down beside his daughter and pulled her into a tight hug. "You saved his life," he whispered. "Delaney, you saved his life." "I know," Delaney said quietly. She didn't feel like a hero. She just felt tired. "I know." Beatrice brought her a glass of water. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen." "It was the right thing," Delaney said, taking a sip. "Even if he is who he is, I couldn't just let him die." Nolan sat down at the table with them. "So, what happens now?" Nobody had an answer to that question. Everett Hale, the man who had tried to destroy them all, was alive because of Delaney. What would he do with this second chance at life? Would he change, or would he come back even angrier than before? Days passed. Days of waiting and wondering. The café stayed open, though Harlan still talked about closing it down. They hadn't heard anything from Everett or his lawyers. It was like the whole world was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Delaney couldn't stop thinking about those moments on the café floor, pressing down on Everett's chest, breathing air into his lungs, fighting to keep him alive. She had nightmares about it. In her dreams, she would press and press, but Everett wouldn't wake up. She would fail, and he would die, and somehow it would be her fault. But he hadn't died. He was alive. Somewhere in a hospital bed, Everett Hale was alive because of her. On an afternoon, Delaney's phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. "Hello, is this Delaney Brooks?" a man's voice asked. "Yes, this is she. This is Preston Hayes. I'm Mr. Hale's assistant. I wanted to call and thank you." The doctor said, "If you hadn't done CPR, Mr. Hale would have died before the ambulance arrived. You saved his life." Delaney didn't know what to say. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Preston said quietly. "Most people wouldn't have, especially not after everything he did to you and your father. That took real courage and kindness." There was a pause. "How is he?" Delaney found herself asking. "He's awake, stable. The doctors say he had a massive heart attack. His heart was very weak. They had to do emergency surgery. He's going to be in the hospital for at least another week, maybe 2. "Oh, Delaney." Preston's voice changed, became more serious. "Mr. Hale wants to see you." Delaney's heart jumped. "What? Why?" "He won't tell me. He just keeps saying he needs to talk to you to thank you personally." Preston paused. "You don't have to go. I know he's hurt you and your family terribly, but I think something changed in him. When he woke up and I told him what you did, he cried. He cried." Delaney couldn't imagine Everett Hale crying. "I've worked for him for years, and I've never seen him cry. Not once. But when I told him you saved his life, the same person he was trying to destroy, he broke down. I think maybe almost dying made him see things differently." Delaney thought about it. Part of her didn't want to see Everett ever again, but another part of her was curious. Could a person like Everett really change? "Which hospital?" she asked. That evening, Delaney took the bus to St. Mary's Hospital downtown. It was a tall building with lots of windows and a big lobby that smelled like cleaning supplies and flowers. She asked at the front desk for Everett Hale's room number. The nurse looked at her strangely, probably wondering why a young woman in simple clothes was visiting one of the richest men in the city, but gave her the information. "Room 847, 8th floor." Delaney took the elevator up, her stomach feeling nervous and fluttery. She didn't know what she was going to say. She didn't even know why she came. The elevator doors opened and she walked down a long hallway with shiny floors and fluorescent lights. Room 847 was at the end. She knocked softly. "Come in," a weak voice said. Delaney opened the door slowly. Everett Hale lay in the hospital bed, looking nothing like the powerful, scary man she'd known. He wore a plain hospital gown. Wires connected him to machines that beeped softly. An IV drip ran into his arm. His face was pale and thin. His slick back hair was messy. He looked small and fragile and old. When he saw Delaney, his eyes filled with tears. "You came," he said, his voice. Delaney stood in the doorway, not sure if she should come closer. "Your assistant said you wanted to see me." "Please," Everett gestured weakly to a chair beside the bed. "Please sit down." Delaney walked over slowly and sat in the chair, keeping some distance between them. They were quiet for a moment. The machines beeped. Somewhere down the hall, someone laughed. "I don't know how to do this," Everett finally said. "I don't know how to apologize. I've spent my whole life never apologizing for anything, never admitting I was wrong, never showing weakness." He looked at Delaney with red, watery eyes. "But I was wrong about everything." Delaney didn't say anything. She just listened. "The doctors told me I was minutes from death." Everett continued. "Minutes? And do you know what I thought about in those last moments before I blacked out?" "What?" "Nothing. I thought about nothing. No happy memories, no loved ones, no accomplishments I was proud of. Just emptiness." A tear rolled down his cheek. "I'm old, and when I faced death, I realized I had nothing worth remembering. No one who would miss me. No one whose life I'd made better. Just nothing." He wiped his eyes with a shaky hand. "And then Preston told me what you did. That you, the person I tried to destroy, the person I threatened and attacked and hurt. You got down on your knees and saved my life. You could have let me die. You probably should have let me die, but you didn't." Delaney's own eyes were getting wet. "I couldn't just watch someone die." "Why not?" "I would have." Everett's voice cracked. "If it had been you on that floor, I would have stood there and done nothing. I know I would have, because that's the kind of person I am. I don't know anymore." He looked at the ceiling, more tears streaming down his face. "I've spent my entire life building walls," Everett said quietly. "Walls of money and power and fear. I thought those walls made me strong. I thought they protected me. But they didn't. They just made me alone. So completely, terribly alone." "Mr. Hale?" "Everett," he interrupted. "Please call me Everett. I think I've lost the right to demand titles and respect." Delaney nodded. "Everett, why did you become like this? When did you start being so mean to people?" Everett was quiet for a long time. Then he began to talk. "When I was young, your age maybe, I was nobody. I grew up poor. My father left when I was young. My mother worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. I got bullied at school because my clothes were old and torn. I had nothing." He paused, remembering. "I promised myself I would never be powerless again, never be weak again. So, I worked, I studied, I built a business from nothing. I made money, lots of it. And somewhere along the way, I learned that money gave me power. And power meant I could make sure no one ever hurt me again." "But you started hurting others instead," Delaney said softly. "Yes." Everett's voice was barely a whisper. "I became the bully I used to fear. I became the person I hated. And I told myself it was okay because they deserved it, because I was better than them, because I had earned the right to treat people however I wanted. He looked directly at Delaney, but I was wrong about everything. Money didn't protect me. It isolated me. Power didn't make me safe. It made me cruel. And in the end, when my heart stopped beating, all that money and power meant nothing. The only thing that mattered was the kindness of a waitress I tried to destroy. Delaney felt tears running down her own cheeks. "Now, I don't deserve your forgiveness," Everett said. "I don't deserve anyone's forgiveness. But I need you to know I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I did to you, to your father, to everyone at the café. I'm sorry for the years I spent hurting people. I'm sorry for being a monster." "You're not a monster," Delaney heard herself say. "Monsters can't change. People can." Everett looked at her with such hope and sadness in his eyes that it broke her heart. "Can I?" he asked. "Can I really change after everything I've done?" After all the people I've hurt, Delaney thought about it carefully. She thought about her father's tears, about Beatrice crying, about all the businesses Everett had destroyed over the years, about the pain he'd caused. But she also thought about second chances, about forgiveness, about the fact that people weren't just one thing, not all good or all bad, but complicated and messy and capable of growing. "I think," Delaney said slowly, "that anyone can change if they really want to, if they're willing to do the hard work of becoming better. But words aren't enough, Everett. Being sorry isn't enough. You have to actually change your actions." "I will," Everett said urgently. "I swear I will. I'll drop the lawsuit. I'll stop the inspections. I'll leave your café alone." "Oh, it's not just about us," Delaney interrupted gently. "It's about everyone. All the people you've hurt over the years. All the businesses you destroyed. If you really want to change, you need to make things right with all of them." Everett nodded, more tears falling. "You're right. You're absolutely right. I will. I'll spend the rest of my life making things right, however long that is." The machines beeped softly in the quiet room. "The doctors say my heart is very damaged," Everett said. "Even with surgery, I might not have much time left. Maybe a few years if I'm lucky. Maybe less." "Then you'd better not waste whatever time you have," Delaney said. Everett smiled, a real, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. It was the first time Delaney had ever seen him smile like a regular person, not with cruelty or sarcasm, but with actual warmth. "You're wise," he said. "Much wiser than I ever was at your age, than I am even now." Delaney stood up. "I should go. You need to rest. Delaney, wait." Everett reached out his hand, not demanding or commanding, but asking, hoping. Delaney hesitated, then took his hand. It felt thin and weak, nothing like the powerful grip she'd imagined. "Thank you," Everett whispered. "Not just for saving my life, for showing me that there's still good in the world. That kindness exists even when it's not deserved. You gave me something more valuable than my life. You gave me hope that I can become a better person." Delaney squeezed his hand gently. "Then don't waste it." She let go and walked to the door. Before she left, she turned back. "Everett, real change is hard. It takes time, and some people won't forgive you no matter what you do. Are you ready for that?" Everett nodded. "I am. I have to be, because the alternative, staying the person I was, that's not living. That's just existing in a prison of my own making." Delaney gave him a small smile and left. As she rode the elevator down and walked out into the cool evening air, she felt something shift inside her. She didn't know if Everett would really change. Talk was easy. Actions were hard. But for the first time, she allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, something good could come from all of this pain. Maybe even monsters could learn to be human again. The next morning, Harlan received a phone call that changed everything. He was at the café going through bills and trying to figure out which ones he could pay and which ones would have to wait when his phone rang. "Hello, Mr. Brooks. This is Sterling Reed from Reed Sterling and Associates. I'm Everett Hale's attorney." Harlan's stomach dropped. Here it comes, he thought. More legal threats, more demands. "Yes," Harlan said cautiously. "Mr. Hale has instructed me to withdraw the lawsuit against you and your café. All claims are being dropped effective immediately. You will face no legal action from him." Harlan was so shocked he almost dropped the phone. "What? I don't understand. Additionally, Mr. Hale has asked me to draft formal letters to the health department, fire marshal, and building inspectors, admitting that he used his influence to target your business unfairly. He's also contacting your landlord and suppliers to reverse any pressure he applied. Is this some kind of trick?" "No trick, Mr. Brooks. Mr. Hale was very clear. He wants to make things right. You should receive confirmation letters by the end of the week." After the lawyer hung up, Harlan just sat there staring at his phone like it might explode. Delaney came out from the kitchen. "Dad, who was that? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Everett's dropping the lawsuit," Harlan said in a daze. "All of it. He's undoing everything he did to us." "Really?" Delaney felt a flutter of hope in her chest. "His lawyer said we'd get it all in writing by the end of the week." Beatrice, who had been listening from behind the counter, let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. "Thank God. Oh, thank God." But Harlan still looked worried. "This doesn't fix everything. We've already lost customers. We've spent money we didn't have fixing violations. The damage is done. But at least it stops getting worse." Delaney said, "That's something, Dad. That's a start." Days later, Preston Hayes walked into the café carrying a large envelope. "Mr. Brooks," he said, approaching the counter where Harlan was making coffee. Harlan looked up and recognized Everett's assistant. He tensed. "What do you want?" "I have something from Mr. Hale." Preston set the envelope on the counter. "He asked me to deliver this personally." Harlan stared at the envelope like it might bite him. "What is it?" "Open it." Harlan opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a check. His hand started shaking when he saw the amount. $25,000. "What? What is this?" Harlan stammered. "Mr. Hale calculated all the money you lost because of his actions," Preston explained. "Lost business, inspection fees, the cost of fixing violations, legal consultations, everything. He asked his accountants to come up with a fair number. That's what they calculated." Delaney came over and looked at the check. Her eyes went wide. It's not a gift," Preston said quickly. Mr. Hale was very clear about that. "He's not trying to buy forgiveness. This is compensation for actual damages he caused. He considers it a debt he owes." Harlan sat down heavily in a nearby chair, still staring at the check. "I can't believe this. There's more." Preston reached into his jacket and pulled out several more envelopes. "These are for your employees. Compensation for the emotional distress they suffered. $1,000 each for Beatrice, Lydia, and Nolan." Beatrice had tears running down her face. "He's really doing this. He's really trying to make things right." "He is," Preston said. "And between you and me, I've never seen anything like it. I've worked for Everett Hale for years, and I've watched him hurt so many people. I never thought he was capable of—" He paused, struggling to find the words of being human, of caring. But something changed in that hospital. Something fundamental. It was Delaney, Harlan said quietly, looking at his daughter. She showed him what real strength looks like, what real courage looks like. Preston nodded. She saved more than his life that day. I think she saved his soul. 1 week later, Everett was released from the hospital. The doctors told him he needed to rest, take his medications, exercise gently, and avoid stress. Most importantly, they told him he needed to change his entire lifestyle. "Your heart is weak, Mr. Hale," Dr. Whitaker had said. "Another attack like this one, and you might not survive. You need to slow down. Stop working so hard. Stop getting angry all the time. Find peace, or he didn't need to finish the sentence." Everett understood. Preston drove him home to his enormous mansion, a huge house with bedrooms, an indoor pool, a home theater, and more space than one person could ever need. Everett walked through the front door and looked around at all his expensive furniture, his original paintings on the walls, his crystal chandeliers. Everything in the house cost a fortune, and it all felt empty. He walked from room to room, his footsteps echoing in the vast, silent spaces. No family photos on the walls, no signs that anyone actually lived here, just expensive things arranged in expensive rooms. "This isn't a home," Everett said quietly to himself. "It's a museum, a cold, empty museum." He went up to his bedroom, a massive room with a king-sized bed, a balcony overlooking the city, and a bathroom bigger than most people's kitchens. He opened his closet. Row after row of expensive suits stared back at him. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. "When did I become this person?" he whispered. That night, Everett couldn't sleep. He lay in his huge bed, in his huge room, in his huge house, feeling more alone than he'd ever felt in his entire life. He thought about Delaney's question. "Are you ready for real change?" Was he? The next morning, Everett called Preston to his house. "I need you to help me with something," Everett said when Preston arrived. "Of course, sir. What do you need? I want to sell everything." Preston blinked. "I'm sorry." "What?" "This house, my cars, my art collection, all of it. I want to sell it all." "Sir, I don't think you should make major decisions right after a heart attack. Maybe wait a few months." "No," Everett said firmly. "I've wasted enough time already." The doctor said, "I might only have a few years left. I'm not spending them living in a tomb surrounded by things that don't matter. But where will you live? I'll find a small apartment, something normal, something real." Everett looked around at his mansion. "Preston, I've been so focused on building an empire that I forgot to build a life. I want to change that." Preston studied his boss carefully. "You're really serious about this?" "I am. What will you do with all the money from selling everything?" Everett smiled. That new, genuine smile that still looked strange on his face. "I have an idea about that too. But first, I need to do something else. Something important." "What's that?" "I need to talk to Harlan Brooks in person, and I need to ask him for something that might be the hardest thing I've ever asked for." The next Tuesday morning, Everett walked into Aroma Coffee Kitchen. The bell above the door jingled. Everyone froze. Harlan was behind the counter. Beatrice was carrying muffins from the kitchen. Lydia and Nolan were wiping tables. Delaney was taking an order from a customer. They all stared at Everett. He looked different. He wasn't wearing one of his expensive suits. Instead, he wore simple pants and a plain button-up shirt. His hair wasn't slicked back. He looked ordinary human. "Please," Everett said, his voice quiet and humble. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I need to talk to Harlan if he's willing." Harlan exchanged a glance with Delaney. She nodded slightly. Okay, Harlan said cautiously. We can talk. They sat at a table in the corner. Ironically, not table 3 where Everett used to sit, but a different table. A fresh start. Everett folded his hands on the table. They were shaking slightly. I don't know how to begin, he said. The beginning is usually a good place, Harlan said, his voice neither friendly nor hostile. Just careful. I'm dying, Everett said bluntly. Maybe not tomorrow or next month, but soon. My heart is badly damaged. The doctors give me a few years if I'm lucky, maybe less. I'm sorry to hear that, Harlan said, and he meant it. Don't be. I deserve it. I spent years being angry and cruel and destructive. My heart gave out because I filled it with poison. Everett looked Harlan in the eye. But I have a little bit of time left, and I want to use it differently. I want to spend whatever time I have left trying to repair some of the damage I've caused. The compensation money was a good start, Harlan admitted. It's not enough. Money can fix some things, but not everything. Everett took a deep breath. Harlan, I'm selling everything I own. My house, my cars, my company, all of it. I'm taking all that money and starting a foundation to help people who've been abused by their bosses, by wealthy people who think they can treat workers like garbage. I want to help the people I used to be like. Harlan looked surprised. That's actually a wonderful idea, but I can't do it alone. I don't know how to help people. I only know how to hurt them. I need someone to run this foundation, someone with integrity, someone who understands what it's like to be on the receiving end of workplace abuse, someone people will trust. Everett paused. I want that person to be your daughter. Delaney. Harlan's eyes widened. What? I want Delaney to be the executive director of the foundation. She'll have complete control. She'll decide who gets help, how the money is spent, everything. I'll provide the funding, but she'll be in charge. Why, Delaney? Harlan asked. Because she's everything I'm not, Everett said simply. She's kind. She's brave. She stands up for what's right, even when it costs her. She saved my life when she should have let me die. She's exactly the kind of person this foundation needs. Harlan sat back in his chair processing this. That's a big responsibility. I know, and I'm not expecting an answer right now, but please ask her to think about it. Everett stood up slowly. There's one more thing I need to ask you. This one is even harder. What is it? Everett looked down at his hands, then back at Harlan. I want to learn how to work. Real work. Honest work. I spent my whole life sitting in offices, ordering people around, pushing papers. I don't know what it's like to actually serve people, to help people, to do the kind of work that makes a difference in someone's day. He took a deep breath. Harlan, I'm asking you to let me work here at the café as a volunteer. I'll clean bathrooms. I'll wash dishes. I'll take out trash. Whatever you need. I need to learn what it means to be a decent person. And I think working here with you and your team might teach me that. Harlan was so shocked he couldn't speak for a moment. You want to work here? He finally said. After everything you did to try to destroy this place. I know it sounds crazy. I know you have every reason to say no, but I'm asking anyway. Everett's voice cracked. Please give me a chance to learn. Give me a chance to be better. Harlan looked across the cafe at his daughter. Delaney had been watching the whole conversation from a distance. He raised his eyebrows at her, asking silently what she thought. Delaney walked over to their table. I heard what you said, she told Everett. About the foundation, about wanting to work here. And Everett asked, hope and fear in his eyes. I think Delaney paused, choosing her words carefully. I think everyone deserves a second chance, but second chances have to be earned. They're not given freely. I understand. If you work here, you'll be treated like anyone else. No special treatment, no cutting corners. You'll do the hard jobs, the dirty jobs, the jobs that nobody wants to do. And if you slip back into being cruel or arrogant even once, you're out. Do you understand? I understand. Delaney looked at her father. Dad, it's your cafe. It's your decision. Harlan thought about it. He thought about all the pain Everett had caused. He thought about the fear, the stress, the nights he couldn't sleep. But he also thought about forgiveness, about second chances, about the fact that people could change if they really wanted to. Okay, Harlan finally said. You can work here on a trial basis, but I have conditions. Anything, Everett said quickly. First, you start at the bottom, the very bottom, cleaning bathrooms, taking out trash, washing dishes. Yes. Son, you see a therapist. You need to work through whatever made you so angry at the world. Everett nodded. Already scheduled my first appointment. Third, one mistake, one flash of your old attitude, and you're done. No second chances after your second chance. I understand. Harlan stood up and extended his hand. Then, welcome to Aroma Coffee Kitchen. You start tomorrow in the morning. Don't be late. Everett stood and shook Harlan's hand. Tears ran down his face. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this chance. I won't waste it. I promise. As Everett left the cafe, everyone watched in stunned silence. Did that really just happen? Nolan asked, pushing his glasses up. I think so, Lydia said. Beatrice walked over to Harlan and Delaney. Are you too sure about this? Can we trust him? No, Harlan said honestly. We can't trust him. Not yet. Trust has to be earned. What? He looked at his daughter. But if we never give people a chance to change, how will they ever be better? Delaney smiled at her father. When did you become so wise? I learned it from my daughter, Harlan said, pulling Delaney into a hug. Outside, Everett got into his car, one of the last fancy things he still owned. But he didn't drive home to his mansion. Instead, he drove to a small apartment building he'd been looking at, a modest one-bedroom apartment that cost a fraction of what his mansion did. He looked up at the building and smiled. For the first time in decades, Everett Hale felt something he hadn't felt in years. He felt hope. The next morning, Everett arrived at Aroma Coffee Kitchen. He wore old jeans and a plain t-shirt, clothes he bought specifically for this job. He'd never owned clothes this simple before. They felt strange, freeing. Harlan was already inside, setting up for the day. Good morning, Everett said quietly. Harlan looked up. For a moment, he just studied Everett as if trying to decide if this was real or some kind of elaborate trick. Mornin', Harlan finally said. Ready to work? I am good. Follow me. Harlan led Everett to a small storage closet at the back of the cafe. Inside were cleaning supplies, mops, buckets, spray bottles, rubber gloves. First job of the day is cleaning the bathrooms, Harlan said. They need to be spotless before we open. Think you can handle that? Everett looked at the supplies. In his old life, he would have been insulted. He would have shouted that he was Everett Hale, that he didn't clean toilets, that this was beneath him. But that was the old Everett, the one who almost died alone and afraid. I can handle it, he said. Harlan handed him rubber gloves and a bucket. Then get to work. For the next hour, Everett scrubbed toilets. He mopped floors. He cleaned mirrors until they sparkled. He wiped down sinks and counters. It was hard work. His back hurt. His knees ached from kneeling. His hands got wrinkled from being in water so long. But there was something peaceful about it, something honest. He was doing real work. Work that mattered. Work that helped people, even if it was in a small way. When he finished, Harlan came to inspect. He checked every corner, every surface. Everett held his breath, waiting for criticism. "Good job," Harlan said simply. "Now come help Beatrice in the kitchen. She needs someone to wash dishes." And so Everett's new life began. The first few weeks were hard. Everett made mistakes. He dropped plates. He forgot orders. He mopped the floor wrong and had to do it over again. But he never complained. He never got angry. He just apologized and tried to do better. The cafe staff watched him carefully, waiting for him to snap, to return to being the cruel man they remembered. But it never happened. Slowly, very slowly, they began to trust him. Beatrice was the first to warm up to him. One morning, when Everett was washing dishes, she said, "You're getting better at this." Everett looked up surprised. "Thank you. I mean it. When you started, you were terrible." She smiled. "Now you're just below average." Everett laughed, really laughed. Not the cold, mocking laugh of his old life, but a warm, genuine laugh. "I'll take it." Nolan was next. He started showing Everett how to use the cash register, how to take orders properly, how to make simple coffee drinks. "You're actually not bad at this," Nolan said one afternoon, pushing his glasses up. "For a beginner." "High praise," Everett said with a smile. Lydia took the longest to come around. She remembered too clearly how Everett had made her shake with fear, how he'd threatened her job, her livelihood. But one day, when Everett stayed late to help her finish cleaning up, she said quietly, "You really have changed, haven't you?" Everett stopped mopping and looked at her. "I'm trying. Every single day I'm trying." "I can see that," Lydia said. "And I want you to know that I forgive you for everything." Everett felt tears sting his eyes. "Thank you. That means more than you know." While Everett worked at the cafe in the mornings, he spent his afternoons setting up the foundation. True to his word, he sold everything. His mansion sold for $3 million. His collection of luxury cars sold for another $500,000. His art collection, his jewelry, his fancy watches, all of it was sold. In total, Everett raised $7 million. He put it all into the foundation, which he named Second Chance. Delaney agreed to be the executive director, but only after finishing a special training program in non-profit management. She wanted to do the job right. The foundation opened its doors after Everett's heart attack. Its mission was simple: to help workers who were being bullied, harassed, or abused by wealthy employers. The foundation provided free legal help, counseling services, and financial support to help people fight back against workplace abuse. Delaney ran it with the same integrity and courage she'd shown that day in the cafe. She hired a team of lawyers, therapists, and social workers. They helped dozens of people in the first month alone, hundreds in the first year. And every person they helped, Delaney made sure to tell them the same thing: everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. No matter who you are or how much money you have, you deserve respect. The foundation became exactly what Everett had hoped it would be: a force for good, helping the kind of people he used to hurt. Years passed. Everett continued working at the cafe every morning. He lived in his small apartment. He took the bus to work like everyone else. He made friends with regular customers, people who had no idea he used to be a millionaire. His therapist, Dr. Langley, helped him understand why he'd been so angry for so long. They worked through his childhood trauma, his fear of being powerless, his belief that money could protect him from pain. "You built a fortress around yourself," Dr. Langley told him one day. "But fortresses keep people out. They isolate you. Real strength isn't about building walls. It's about building bridges." Everett thought about that a lot. He started building bridges instead of walls. He reconciled with people he'd hurt over the years. He tracked down businesses he destroyed and offered financial help to rebuild. He wrote letters of apology to dozens of people. Some forgave him, some didn't. He accepted both with grace. "I can't force people to forgive me," he told Delaney one day. "All I can do is prove through my actions that I've changed. The rest is up to them." One Tuesday morning, Everett arrived at the café to find everyone gathered around, smiling mysteriously. "What's going on?" he asked. "Come sit down," Harlan said, gesturing to a table. Everett sat confused. The whole café staff gathered around. Harlan, Delaney, Beatrice, Lydia, and Nolan. Harlan pulled out a small box and handed it to Everett. "This is for you." Everett opened the box. Inside was a name tag like the ones all the café employees wore, but this one was special. It said, "Everett, Aroma Coffee Kitchen Family." Everett stared at it, his eyes filling with tears. "Family, you've been working here for years," Harlan said. "You've shown up every single day. You've worked hard. You've been kind to customers. You've helped all of us. You're not just an employee anymore. You're part of our family." Everett couldn't speak. He just held the name tag and cried. Happy tears this time. Beatrice hugged him, then Lydia, then Nolan, then Harlan, then Delaney. "Thank you." Everett finally managed to say, "Thank you for giving me a chance. Thank you for teaching me what it means to be human again. Thank you for proving that people can change." Delaney said, "You've inspired me, Everett. You've shown me that even when things seem hopeless, even when someone seems too far gone, there's always a chance for redemption." That afternoon, Everett and Delaney sat together at the cafe after the lunch rush, drinking coffee and talking about the foundation. "We helped our 500th person yesterday," Delaney said. 500 workers who were being abused by their bosses. 500 people who got justice because of the foundation. "Because of you," Everett corrected. "I just provided the money. You provided the heart. We both did." Delaney said, "That's the point, isn't it? One person can't change the world alone. But when people work together, when they build bridges instead of walls, that's when real change happens." Everett smiled. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from someone who learned the hard way," Delaney said with a gentle smile. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the cafe bustle with activity. Customers chatted and laughed. Coffee machines hissed. Life happened all around them. "Delaney," Everett said quietly, "can I tell you something?" "Of course." "When I had that heart attack, the doctors told me I might only have a few years left, maybe less." He paused. "I went for a checkup. The doctors were amazed. They said my heart has gotten stronger, much stronger. They said if I keep living the way I'm living, less stress, more purpose, more connection, I might have more years." Delaney's face lit up. "Everett, that's wonderful." "It's because of all of you," Everett said, tears in his eyes again. "Before, my life was killing me. The anger, the isolation, the cruelty, it was literally destroying my heart. But now I have a reason to live. I have work that matters. I have friends. I have purpose. And that's healing me from the inside out. You healed yourself." Delaney said, "You made the choice to change. That takes real courage. You gave me the reason to be courageous. Everett said, You showed me that kindness is stronger than cruelty, that compassion is stronger than power, that being human is better than being rich. He looked around the cafe at the mismatched chairs, the faded paint, the old wooden tables. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't impressive. But it was real. It was home. You know what I've learned, Everett said. What? Wealth isn't about what's in the bank. It's about respect, peace, and the people who choose to stand by you. Delaney smiled and put her hand on his shoulder. Then, yes, Everett, you've become truly wealthy. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Like, share, and comment on the lessons you've learned. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. See you in my next